Hello everyone, back tuning into today's second video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days for today's second video, which will take us pretty much into the middle of March. And we'll also have a look at CFSV2 for the next month as well. That takes us just to the start of April. So, unsettled weather on the way over the next week to 10 days, definitely. We're going to have a lot of low pressure piling in off the Atlantic, so there'll be showers or longer spells of rain. And the temperature's going to be quite cool as well, really, I think, over the next week, 10 days. It's certainly not going to be particularly mild. So, all in all, quite a cool, unsettled feel for the first half of March. Second half of March, potentially building in some high pressure. We discussed this in the ECMWF 30-day look ahead. We've released that already today. So, real month of two halves, not just for the UK, but for much of Europe too. First half, cool and unsettled, but second half, looking quite a lot milder, maybe even warmer, and drier with high pressure returning, I think, to much of the continent. That's the indications at the moment. Anyway, we'll see how that pans out. Going to start off with a couple of pictures for today's second video. So over the weekend, of course, we had Storm Freya, and Storm Freya did bring some snow to parts of Ireland. So this was sent through to us by Paul Neville. This was showing a snowy afternoon on Sunday afternoon over in Limerick, a proper wintry afternoon there with snow falling in Limerick. This one sent to us on Facebook by Mick Dunn, which is showing Athy, County Kildare, and pretty deep snow there in County Kildare. Look at that, some proper covering of snow. I'm not sure what the elevation is there, but maybe it's a little bit higher up, but definitely a real genuine covering of snow in County Kildare over the weekend on Sunday afternoon. So, yeah, it was proper wintry stuff over the weekend in Ireland. It was forecast, perhaps not to quite the extent, but it fell. It did always look as though there could be some snow associated with Storm Freya on its sort of northern and western edge. It possibly became a little bit more of a snow event than was anticipated, though. It just goes to show, I mean, just a week or so ago, basking in temperatures into the upper teens Celsius in Ireland, and then a week or so later, shivering under a blanket of snow. And you just never know what's around the corner with the UK's weather and Ireland's weather. It's one of the things that keeps us on our toes and keeps us interested, I think. If you want to see your weather pictures featured in videos, then you can share them with us on our Facebook and Twitter pages. You can email them to gazweathervids@gmail.com, or you can post them in the comment box at gazweathervids. We're always happy to feature the pics in the vids when we get the time. Big thank you to Paul and to Mick for sending those through. Right, so let's get on with the video. We're going to start off by looking at the Arctic Oscillation Observed and Forecast chart. Looks like things could be changing a little bit with the AO. So the black line here tells us where we've been with the Arctic Oscillation, going back to the end of the autumn, back to November just here. Red lines at the end where the GFS ensembles are forecasting the AO to go. So we're in a positive phase of the Arctic Oscillation at the moment. The Arctic Oscillation has been positive generally since around the second week of February. And really very positive indeed, actually. We're still very positive with the AO at the moment. Maybe it's just an index that's reflecting the state of the atmosphere. It's not driving anything, it just tells you what the atmosphere is doing. And when the Arctic Oscillation is positive, you've got low pressure over the North Pole, and consequently you'll be strengthening the zonal westerlies. So, we're in a positive phase of the Arctic Oscillation now. We're going to stay in a positive phase of the AO for the next week. But then as we go towards the middle of March, which is this period just here, we start to see the AO tumbling a little bit. So, those red lines begin to drop, begin to reduce, and it looks like we could be heading certainly back towards neutral conditions with the Arctic Oscillation. Maybe even starting to go a little bit negative again. As we go into the middle of March. Of course, through much of this winter, the AO was in its negative phase. The positivity of the AO which took place through early February, was a change compared to earlier in the winter. So it could well be that we're going to start going back towards a more negative phase of the Arctic Oscillation towards the middle part of March. That will be indicative of high pressure returning towards the North Pole. Now, there is a lot of scatter within that, so some of these members of the GFS ensembles are keeping the Arctic Oscillation more positive, but most of them, I think the majority of them, are going to more negative territory, at least for a while, around the middle part of the month. No signs of the North Atlantic Oscillation changing though, so throughout this winter the NAO has generally been in its positive phase, going right way back to the start of the winter, just here 1st of December, and going right through to where we are now with the NAO. Generally, we've been trending either close to neutral or on the positive side of neutral. So it has been a positive NAO winter, and it looks like we're going to keep the NAO into positive territory, going right way up into the middle of March, this period just here. We see all members pretty much of the GFS ensembles keeping the NAO in positive territory. So looks like this consistent positive phase of the North Atlantic Oscillation going to carry on for a while yet. At some point this has got to shift. It's been going on so long. You would say that at some point this has got to shift, but certainly up to the middle part of March, anyway, we're going to keep the North Atlantic Oscillation in positive territory. These are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles. We're going to Canvey Island, down in the Thames estuary near Essex today. So this is another suggested location for this section of the video. One of the places that our viewers wanted to see. So the red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Canvey Island. I'm going to go a little bit warmer than average with the upper air temperatures tomorrow. That's associated with an area of low pressure, though, that will bring quite a bit of wet weather. And then after that, generally, it looks like we're keeping the temperatures, the upper air temperatures anyway, on the cooler than average side. In fact, a little bit cold through the course of next week. I think we'll be turning for a few days anyway through the course of next week, maybe going a little bit colder. Now, in the more extended range, so beyond the middle of the month into the second half of the month, we find a lot of scatter beginning to appear, and possibly just signs of a bit of a warm-up starting to take place, kind of like around the 17th, 18th, 19th of March, possibly beginning to see some signs of temperatures beginning to lift up, although there is a lot of scatter in this period. But we are expecting, as we go into the second half of March, we'll start to get an area of high pressure developing, and that could start to bring some drier and warmer weather for the final week to 10 days of March, and possibly just seeing a few signs of that within the GFS ensembles for Canvey Island today. Precipitation-wise, lots of rainfall coming up over the next week, 10 days, certainly up to the middle of March. Looks very, very unsettled indeed, with regular rainfall spikes. So we're going to be in for a bit of an Atlantic onslaught. Again, possibly just a few signs of a drying trend appearing here right at the very end of the ensemble. So this into the second half of March. Possibly just a few signs that the precipitation spikes are dying away, are easing away. So putting that period there just together with the temperature part of the chart, we do possibly see a few signs of a change into the second half of March, something a little bit warmer and perhaps a little bit drier as well. But certainly up to the middle of the month, looking cool or perhaps even cold at times and unsettled. Temperature anomalies from the 5th through to the 13th of March, generally a little bit colder than average for northern parts of the country and close to average for England and Wales. Scandinavia, significantly colder than average up there. Most other parts of Europe are coming out milder than average. And precipitation anomalies from the 5th to the 13th of March looking very unsettled, above average rainfall, not just for the UK and Ireland, but for most central and northern parts of Europe as well. It does look like it's going to be a very unsettled week, but particularly so in the northwest of Europe. This is how the GFS is looking for Friday. This is the GFS operational run, based on the 6 o'clock run of the GFS. So on Friday, just under a little bump of high pressure, actually, just under a very transient ridge, but it won't last long. By the time you get through to Saturday, the next low pressure is steamrolling in off the Atlantic. And this is going to be an unsettled weekend. There'll be showers or longer spells of rain, and not particularly mild either. Into next week, it stays unsettled, low pressure continues to barrel in from off the Atlantic. That's how things look in a week's time. Tuesday the 12th of March is very unsettled. Low pressures to the north of Scotland, bringing strong to gale force winds to Scotland, and starting to dig down some slightly colder air from the North Atlantic as well. We're actually going to a northerly next Wednesday the 13th of March. It's taking us into a direct northerly, so that could bring snow showers to northern parts of the country, and it will feel very chilly as well. Doesn't last long. Low pressure's back in from the Atlantic, turn wind into the west on Thursday, and very unsettled looking charts as we go into the end of next week. Back to the north again. A little bit beyond day 10, this is Saturday the 16th of March, another northerly pushing down across the country, bringing a push of cold air from the Arctic and possibly snow showers to northern and eastern parts of the country. That's Sunday the 17th of March. High pressure is out to our west, low pressures to our east. We're in a north to northeasterly wind, so it would be cold if that came off, and there could well be snow showers in northern and eastern parts of the country. Then the high pressure begins to topple in. This might be the change towards something drier, maybe a little bit milder for the second half of the month. That's how we finish up with the GFS. It's Thursday the 21st of March. High pressure is more or less over top of the country. Now, the air with this on the surface anyway will still be quite cold actually. Nothing's really happened to infiltrate milder air from around the top of this high pressure, so it will still be quite chilly, certainly cold enough for night frost, but it is settling down. We're going back to high pressure, and if we could roll on a little bit longer, we would possibly find milder air beginning to move back up from the south once again perhaps. The parallel GFS run looks like this. Again, very unsettled at the end of the week, just under a very slight transient bump of high pressure, but only lasts a day on Friday. Then low pressure's back in from off the Atlantic, bringing showers or longer spells of rain for the weekend. Into next week, staying unsettled. That looks a nasty area of low pressure there on Tuesday in a week's time, Tuesday the 12th of March. Low pressure moving in from the Atlantic, 980 millibars with that, so that's a very deep area of low pressure, could bring severe gales and quite a lot of rain too. Look at that, big dartboard low over the top of the UK on Wednesday 13th March. Been a long time since we've seen charts as unsettled as this, so it is going to provide much needed and very useful rain. Low pressure right over the top of the country at 980 millibars on Wednesday 13th of March. The low pressure then slips away to our south, pulling down some quite chilly air from the north as it does so, but then we're back into these westerlies as we go to day 10, which is Friday the 15th of March, looking unsettled, wet and windy weather returns off the Atlantic. Then it goes stormy on the 16th of March. This is just a little bit beyond day 10, but it looks quite stormy. Deep area of low pressure to the northwest of Scotland. I think the central pressure with that is going to be going down to something like 950 millibars, maybe even 945 millibars, but I think that would be a little bit low. So I think it's 950 millibars central pressure with that. That is a very, very deep area of low pressure indeed. And we just keep low pressure close to the country in the extended range. This is Sunday the 17th. Low pressure continues to be close to the country. It's quite cool as well, maybe even a little bit cold, pulling wind in generally from the north type direction. And unlike the GFS operation run, this is actually keeping things unsettled up to the end of the GFS run. So this is as far as we go today, Thursday the 21st of March. And still generally we're keeping these areas of low pressure in from off the Atlantic. So not much sign of high pressure building on the GFS parallel run in the second half of the month. ECM looking like this. So again, there's that little transient ridge there for Saturday, but for Friday, but by Saturday that's been swept away as low pressure has returned from off the Atlantic, and then we keep things unsettled into next week. Low pressure continuously moving in off the Atlantic, bringing showers or longer spells of rain, quite strong winds too with the ECM. Going up towards day 10, that's how we're looking, unsettled and quite chilly, but winds are coming in from a northwesterly direction. We finish up on day 10, Friday the 5th of March, 15th of March, looking really unsettled again. Low pressure is bringing further bouts of rain and strong winds too. So get your waterproofs ready and get your brollies ready. It's going to be a very unsettled week to 10 days if these charts are verified, which I am expecting them to do. these are the options that are on the table within the ECM ensembles at day 10 via the postage stamps from the Icelandic Met Office. So we've got two options really at day 10. We've got 32 members of the ECM ensembles looking like this. They have a deep trough of below average heights over and to the east of the country with a ridge in the middle of the Atlantic. And they're putting wings in like that, so they're very unsettled and they're quite cool as well, or maybe even cold. They include the control and operational ECM runs over runways just looking at from the ECMWF. They're unsettled, very unsettled, and they're pretty cool or even quite cold as well. And then there's a more minority option, 19, so it's 62% versus 37%. But look a little bit milder. They've got high pressure ridging to our southwest with low pressure up to the north, and that's starting to pull up some milder winds, I think, from the middle of the Atlantic. So those ones will be a drier but milder option. These are very cool, maybe even quite cold and unsettled, and that's the majority option at day 10. These 32 are clearly the overwhelming majority option. These are much more of a minority option, but that's not to say they're wrong. It may be, but by day 10 we'll be starting to turn things drier and milder. These are the options that are on the table in 2 weeks' time within the ECM ensembles. This takes us to the 20th of March. And there are a lot of options to go through. So there's 16, these ones here, that are very unsettled with low pressure over and to the west of the country. They do have a bit of a blocking signal, interestingly, around Greenland, but that's not really bringing anything cold to us. We're just bringing in these mild southwesterly winds, but very unsettled. Then there's 10 that still have low pressure to the east of the country and a ridge of high pressure out to our west. So these ones are unsettled. They include the ECM control run as well. These ones are unsettled, but they're quite cold. They're bringing the winds in from kind of like a northerly type direction. Then there's 9 just here that have high pressure sitting off the east coast of Scotland and back towards Scandinavia. So those ones are under high pressure, obviously a lot drier, and probably bringing some sort of easterly wind, and it would depend on the exact origins of the air, whether that will be a cold easterly. You can still get cold, even very cold easterly winds in the second half of March. Would depend on the exact origins of the air, whether that is a cold easterly or whether it's a relatively mild easterly. Then there's 9 members of the ECM ensembles that have high pressure kind of like over a little bit to the south of the UK, so they're a drier but milder option. They're bringing winds up from a southerly southwesterly direction. And then finally there's 7 that have low pressure in the North Atlantic, and they're bringing in a westerly flow, so they're relatively mild and quite unsettled too. So loads of options on the table in 2 weeks' time, telling us that there is quite a bit of uncertainty, but it does look as though the further on we go into the second half of March, the possibilities anyway increase of high pressure beginning to get back into control a little bit, starting to try anyway and break us out of this very unsettled spell of weather. Finally, we'll just have a quick look at the CFS V2. So these are 500 millibar heights broken down to week periods. The first week period will take us from the 5th to the 11th of March. The coming week looks really unsettled, as we've already explained. Low pressure going to be well and truly in control, with the jet stream coming in off the Atlantic, bringing showers or longer spells of rain and pretty cool temperatures from the North Atlantic as well. That continues into week 2. It's the 12th to the 18th of March, with again below average heights to the north of the country, and again we're bringing the jet stream through the UK like that. So again, it continues to look very unsettled and really quite cool as well, I think, through the first couple of weeks of March, certainly up to the middle part of March. But then we get a change. Look at this. This is week 3. The CFS is consistently going for this. So it's the 19th to the 25th of March, with above average heights building from the Atlantic through the UK up to Scandinavia. Low pressure is up towards Greenland and Iceland. The jet stream's moving northwards as well, so that's turning drier and warmer, milder, but maybe even warmer, into the final sort of week to 10 days of March. And then this goes on into week 4. It's the 26th of March to the 1st of April, with an area of above average heights pretty much centred over the top of UK, maybe ever so slightly to our east. It is bringing in a kind of like an easy flow, but I think with that the wind is more south of east, so that will be relatively warm. To get a cold easterly at the end of March, you really have to take that high pressure quite a long way north and dig down proper cold Arctic or Siberian air. So the position of that ridge, like centred over Denmark, I suppose, means that would actually be pulling in quite a mild, maybe in fairly warm southeasterly wind. So definite signs of a pattern change for the final week to 10 days of March with the CFSV2, something a lot drier and potentially quite a bit warmer as well. Temperature anomalies in the week ahead from the 5th to the 11th of March, close to average, a little bit milder than average in the south, a little bit colder than average up in the north. Week 2, temperature anomalies from the 12th to the 18th of March, generally a little bit on the cooler than average side, so it does look quite chilly up to the middle of the month. Then it goes milder in week 3 as that ridge begins to build back in. The 19th to 25th of March goes above average with the temperature anomaly, and then quite substantially above average for week 4, the 26th of March to the 1st of April. We end March on really quite a warm note. Precipitation wise, the coming week looks very unsettled. The 5th to the 11th of March, significantly above average rainfall, and that goes on into week 2 as well, with again significantly above average rainfall coming up then. Week 3 begins to go a bit drier, particularly so for England and Wales. That's the 19th to 25th of March, and then we finish up in week 4, 26th of March to the 1st of April. Look at that, back to drier than average conditions. So all the evidence is that the first half of March is shaping up to be cool and unsettled. The second half of March, and particularly that final sort of 10 days to a week, the final week of March, increasing signs of turning drier and warmer and breaking us out of the low pressure dominated weather quite quickly. So much needed and useful rain through the first half of March, but if this is right, probably not enough to make up the rainfall deficit. In fact, definitely not enough to make up rainfall deficit, because we have had a really prolonged run of dry weather, so you would need to extend consistent rainfall over several weeks, probably 2 or 3 months, to really make up the rainfall deficit. I don't think a couple of weeks, a couple of wet weeks in the first half of March is going to be enough to make up the deficit, but it is useful and much needed rainfall, most definitely, that we've got on the way up to the middle of March. But then it looks like we probably going to go back to high pressure and warmer, drier weather in the second half of the month. But we should wait and see. These long-range models are always prone to chopping and changing, as we know. It could be that they're trying to get us back into that high pressure weather too quickly, and actually it'll be low pressure that carries on in control for the whole of March. If that was to happen, then we would come away with quite a wet month, and of course that would be very, very useful from a rainfall perspective indeed. But I'm not really anticipating that. I'm anticipating high pressure gets back in the second half of the month. Whoops, just not the camera. Right, so that's it for today's videos. Tomorrow we're back 5-day forecast. We'll also have another look at weather next week, 10 days as well. Come back for all of the updates tomorrow. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.